Okay, so now I'm going to read chapter 9. It's called A Tight Leash. It's very short. It's only 9 pages, and once we finish the 9 pages, we will be on page 100. See? Right there? Yeah. Okay, so let's get started. Unfortunately, Cass's mother seemed to think that her absence meant Cass should have less freedom rather than more. A week after she broke the news about her trip, even though she was late for the airport, her mother spent 20 minutes listing all the things Cass wasn't allowed to do while she was gone, including sliding down the fire pole and riding in the back of Wayne's pickup truck. Cass's mother pushed a credit card into Cass's hand. "For emergencies," she said, "but there better not be any." Then she turned toward Cass's substitute grandfathers, and now substitute guardians. "Remember, she's not as adult as she seems. She's still our little girl," which is just about the most infuriating thing her mother could say. "Don't worry, we'll keep her on a tight leash," said Grandpa Larry, which made Cass even madder. "Yeah, Sebastian has a few extras," joked Grandpa Wayne, which was so unfunny it wasn't funny. Apparently, keeping Cass on a tight leash meant dragging her around wherever they went. As soon as their mother fire truck thing. As soon as their mother left, Grandpa Larry and Grandpa Wayne started filling all of her out-of-school time with trips to flea markets and swap meets and garage sales and auto parts junkyards. They said that Cass was just checking out. They said they were just checking out the competition, but Cass noticed they never left anywhere empty-handed. After 2 days with them, Cass never wanted to see another old or broken thing for the rest of her life. Still, the field trips were a relief compared to the time she spent in the shop. Whenever she was at the fire station, Cass worried that Gloria might show up and tell her grandfathers about seeing Cass at the magician's house. What had Gloria called her? A trespasser and a thief? Hearing those words would be enough to get her grandfathers to call her mother, and to get her mother to cancel the rest of her trip, and to get Cass in pretty much the biggest trouble she'd ever been in. Unable to bear the suspense any longer, Cass asked her grandfathers if they heard anything from Gloria. "Oh, don't you worry, she always comes back," said Grandpa Wayne, completely misinterpreting Cass's concern. "And I'm sure she'll have plenty of loot. Maybe she'll even have a new adding machine for us. Wouldn't that be cool?" Cass wasn't sure what could be less cool than a new adding machine, unless it was the way Grandpa Wayne said the word cool. In any case, his answer did not reassure her. But Gloria stayed away that day, and the next, and the next. Gradually, Cass's anxiety about Gloria reappearing was replaced by a new anxiety, an anxiety about Gloria disappearing. What if Dr. L and Miss Mauvais had done something to her? Was that why Gloria hadn't dropped by the shop? The more Cass thought about it, the more certain Cass became that Gloria had met some terrible fate. The magician's house was so remote, Gloria's body might rot there for years and nobody would know. When the next Saturday arrived, Cass's grandfathers announced that it was time for them to take their once-a-year inventory. Each and every single thing in the store had to be counted. Cass could only imagine what this would be like. The store was so disorganized that it would take an entire year just to catalog its contents, and then it would be time for the next year's inventory. She couldn't ask for a better opportunity to return to the magician's house and resume her investigation. As if she were just trying to be helpful, she offered to take Sebastian for a walk while her grandfathers were working. They accepted on condition that she not stay away too long. Cass knew they'd lose track of time as soon as they got started on the inventory, so she readily agreed. She even promised to clean up after the dog. Being blind, Sebastian had a tendency to go about his business in inconvenient places. There was one thing she had to do before she left. In case her grandfathers were more efficient about taking inventory than she imagined, Cass stealthily removed the symphony of smells from her backpack and slipped it back onto the shelf where Grandpa Larry had last stored it. Probably they wouldn't look, but it was better to be careful. Besides, her backpack was heavy enough as it was. The magician's notebook, of course, she kept. No way was she leaving that. Then she said a loud goodbye and headed out with Sebastian. The morning was sunny and windy, which was one of Cass's favorite weather combinations, and she was happy and excited about the day ahead of her. She also liked it when the weather was sunny and rainy at the same time, which is when you're most likely to see a rainbow. However, mud would have made it difficult to dig, so it was a good thing it wasn't raining. Mentally, Cass went over her list of supplies. She took her own inventory, so to speak, until she was satisfied she had everything that she needed, from a collapsible shovel to extra plastic bags for picking up dog poop. In no time at all, Cass felt confident. She and Max Ernest would find whatever it was the magician had buried in the ground. She only hoped that they didn't find the magician, or Gloria, buried along with it. When she reached Max Ernest's house, Cass hit a snag. Max Ernest was standing in the driveway, flipping a coin in the air. On one side of him, his mother sat in her car. On the other side of him, his father sat in his car. Okay, heads I go with Mom, tails I go with Dad, he was saying as Cass walked up to him. This was the way Max Ernest had made many decisions concerning his parents, so she didn't have to pick a favorite. The coin fell on the ground before he could grab it. Oh, darn, you made me mess up, he said to Cass. Well, that's okay because you're not going with either of your parents. You're going with me, said Cass. We're going back to the magician's house, she added in a whisper. We can't. I'm going to a new doctor, Max Ernest whispered back. Tell him it's important. But he thinks he knows what my condition is. I have to go. Well, then I'll just have to go to the magician's house without you, said Cass, very displeased with this turn of events. You'd go without me? Asked Max Ernest in alarm. Don't worry, I know how to handle myself, said Cass, which was a line she had once heard in a movie. That's not what I meant, said Cass. I thought we were partners. You said we were collaborating. Cass immediately bristled at this suggestion. I never said that. That was just something to tell our parents. We're not even really building that volcano. I'm a survivalist, remember? I don't count on anybody but myself. Oh, well, I've never counted on anybody either. Something about the way he said this, maybe it was the fact that tears were welling in his eyes, made Cass think twice. Although Cass liked to think of herself as a fearless adventurer, she also wanted to be fair-minded. Technically, it was true. She had never agreed to collaborate with Max Ernest on the investigation, but she had acted like they were collaborators and amounted to the same thing. Almost. Maybe he was right. She shouldn't go without him. After a few seconds of intense whispered negotiation, they agreed to go back to the magician's house Monday after school, even if it meant having to skip an oboe lesson, Cass, and a mathletes meeting, Max Ernest. Disappointed but resigned, Cass turned around and headed back to the firehouse. When she got there, she let Sebastian off a leash and opened the big red front door. Usually, Sebastian would run in at this point and head for the kitchen in search of food. This time, Sebastian had hesitated at the door, refusing to enter when Cass tried to nudge him in. What's wrong? Don't you want your breakfast? You know, food. Eat. Cass waited until he finally entered the store, but he kept growling and turning his head this way and that, as if trying to catch an elusive scent. Cass looked inside. Everything was the way it was when she left. It didn't look as though her grandfathers had made any headway on the inventory. Grandpa Larry? Grandpa Wayne? Nobody answered. Cass couldn't remember the firehouse ever being so silent. She called their names again. Something was wrong. Her instincts told her to turn around and leave as fast as she could. Footnote, which is exactly what she should have done, and what you and I should do if we ever find ourselves in her situation. Well, what if her grandfathers were bound and gagged and locked in a closet and she could have saved them, but she didn't? Or what if they were lying in the kitchen in a pool of blood, breathing their last breaths, and she couldn't have been there to hear their dying wishes, but she wasn't? Or what if, instead of entering quietly, Cass made a lot of noise as she walked in? She talked loudly to Sebastian. She banged on the furniture. She figured if the bad guys heard her, maybe they'd sneak out to avoid being seen. It was better than surprising them and having them knock her unconscious in a moment of panic. For about 10 tense minutes, Cass searched the firehouse. She had never realized how many hiding places there were in her grandfather's store, how many wardrobes to climb into and tables to climb under. Even so, it looked like her strategy had worked. The bad guys had left when they heard her, or else they'd already left, or else had never been there. Her grandfathers were not tied up in a closet. There was no blood on the kitchen floor. Everything seemed to be okay, except for the fact that her grandfathers were missing. Then she heard a loud bang. It sounded like gunfire. Yep, that's it. Now we're on page 100. Woo! This is a good book. Okay, so thanks for watching. It's really short, and sorry if I read fast, but yeah, bye!